Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. And for those that think, especially all these white leftists that think that black people are their security guards or black people are every other person's security guards, you all are on your own because you all are gaslighting yourselves. You people are very manipulative. And now let me tell you something. You all are always ready to look for a way to call black people into something that got nothing to do with them. Where you people had the opportunity in a platter of gold to change what was going on, you all said it is Donald Trump or Jill Stein. At this point in time, you all are suffering because Jill Stein is nowhere to be found. And this man is dealing with you people, and you people are not even criticizing his regime, but you all are so quick to call black people out for no reason. Now, I am going to say this. You all can take a rest already. Now, each time I see them trying to talk about people that are in Gaza or Palestinians, I feel like they are even creating more problems for them. Sincerely speaking, Donald Trump did not hide his intentions for the people in Gaza. He made it very clear that he is going to do what he wanted to do in Gaza. Project 2025 was a thing. Unfortunately, you all did not even read Project 2025, but you all are here trying to tell us that black people do not read, that you all are the ones that read. If you people read that well, have you not been able to understand that Jill Stein has been doing the same thing she's been doing for how many years? You all couldn't understand that. That is, each time I tell you people to be humble, that black people are the OGs. Listen to them. Let's get into this video.
Agent Orange has doubled down on his rhetoric about Gaza. And I see so much shock and outrage over it. And I'm wondering why. Because what he is saying about the Gaza Strip is imperialism, which is an operator of white supremacy. How was the United States of America founded? Manifest Destiny. And for those of you all who do not know, Manifest Destiny is a white supremacist ideology that believes that white people, by divine right, have a claim to everything that they see because they are exceptional. Bottom line, that's what Manifest Destiny is. Do you all not know that Agent Orange invoked Manifest Destiny in his second inaugural speech, talking about the United States planting a flag and claiming the planet of Mars? This talk about acquiring Greenland and making Canada a 51st state, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. This is Manifest Destiny, good old-fashioned white supremacy and imperialism. All it is just repackaged for the 21st century. Same shit, different generation. And so him talking about clearing out the Gaza Strip from the Palestinians who have lived there for centuries, resettle them to other countries, and then the United States coming in and taking it over. Really what his goal is to not necessarily for the United States to go in Gaza and take it over, but for he and his rich sycophants and cronies to own property there. Do you all think he was joking when he said that he wanted to make Gaza the Mediterranean of the Middle East? There's money to be made, and that is considered by him and his rich friends prime real estate. How is that any different from how white supremacy has historically always operated? That's how the United States was founded. White supremacy said, screw the millions of indigenous people living here already, get rid of them by genocide, by exposing them to diseases that they had never encountered before, by making treaties that were never intended to be honored, to move these pesky indigenous people out of the way because we are by divine right owed this land. And that ideology has not gone anywhere. The United States is my country. You need to go back to where you came from. Spoken by people who were not originally here in the first place. And many of them would proudly tell you where their ancestry came from. Oh, my grandparents came from this nation state in Europe. But then turn around and are quick to tell everybody else, go back to where you came from. Imperialistic white supremacy. That is all that this is. So why are there such reactions of outrage and shock over what Agent Orange is talking about in Gaza? Black folks, we already know about that, because after our ancestors were kidnapped and brought over here and enslaved, there was a movement right before the Civil War to ship us all back to Africa. Abraham Lincoln was a supporter of that. But when that didn't become expedient for him politically, then he decided, oh, well, I'll just free the slaves. And because of the propaganda around the way history is taught about the founding of this nation, he's held up as some hero for black people to admire. I don't think so. Look up how the nation state of Liberia in West Africa was founded, you all. Agent Orange talking about clearing out the Gaza Strip, buying Greenland, making Canada the 51st state, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. All that is Manifest Destiny version 2.0. Agent Orange.
Interesting that all the blue MAGA creeps that were crying and whining because I criticized Cory Booker have had nothing to say about an American, a Palestinian American, who was just murdered by the IOF. And guess where he's from, and guess who didn't make a statement about it? Well, would you look at that? He's from New Jersey. Who's the senator from New Jersey? Right. Nothing. He has said nothing about this child's death. This child, who is an American citizen, is from New Jersey, despite the fact that other congresspeople and the governor of New Jersey have put out statements. If you are an American, it is never safe to travel to the Israeli regime or to Palestine in any capacity, because our country does not care if the Israeli regime kills you. They just don't. If something happens to an American citizen in North Korea, like what happened to Otto Warmbier, you better believe the U.S. is going after them. If something happens to an American in Russia, you better believe the U.S. is going after that shit. If an American citizen, though, gets killed by the IOF in the Israeli regime or in Palestine, the U.S. ain't gonna do shit for you. This was something that genuinely shocked me when I first found out about it, when I first realized it. Now, obviously, it's not new, but I had only recently in the last year or so learned about what happened to Rachel Corrie. And then, of course, the fact that there was no justice for Shireen Abu Akleh, who was also an American citizen, or the American that was killed in the World Central Kitchen attack. So don't you dare think that just because you're an American citizen or hold an American passport, that means that you're going to be protected. You won't be, because you know who else had nothing to say about the murder of this boy? Of course, because he met with Netanyahu this week and said nothing. When asked on Tuesday about Amir's death by the Israeli military, they did not acknowledge him by name. Okay, listen to this ridiculous joke of a lie statement from the IOF. During a counter-terrorism activity in the area of Termasaya, IOF soldiers identified 3 terrorists who hurled rocks toward the highway, thus endangering civilians. Okay, pause. First of all, we already know what's happening here, right? They're lying and saying that because everything we don't like is terrorist. They literally call everyone terrorist. Everything is a terrorist. The lamppost is a terrorist. The car, the highway is a terrorist. The rock is a terrorist. Everything to the IOF is Hamas and a terrorist, okay? So just know that. That's what they use every single fucking time. When they killed Shireen Abu Akleh, that's the exact same thing that they use. They use the exact same line, the exact same lie. And then months later, they quietly came out and were like, yeah, it was the IOF. Also, even if, let's just say that it was true that the boys were hurling rocks at them. Let's just say that that was true. That's not a should not be a death sentence. You don't get to kill someone because they threw a pebble, bro. The soldiers opened fire toward the terrorists who were endangering civilians, eliminating one of the terrorists and hitting the additional terrorist. How many times can you use terrorists in one fucking statement, bro? Like, they think if they just repeat the word over and over again that we're gonna forget that they murdered a teenager. Ayub Jabara, one of the teenagers that was with Amir on Sunday, was shot 3 times but managed to flee and find help, according to the statement from the community center, whose members spoke to the Ayub's family. Surveillance footage showed that the soldiers fired 47 shots at the 3 boys that were picking almonds, according to the statement. So that's what really happened, and that's what always happens. The boys were minding their own fucking business. They were picking some almonds, and the cowards, the actual terrorists, the IOF, shot at them 47 times. It's a minor miracle that the other boys survived. When asked about it in the briefing, Bruce, whose job it also is to do propaganda and protect the Israeli regime, these were teenagers, Mrs. Bruce said. She noted that reports that the Israeli military believed that they were stopping an act of terrorism. Really, yeah, kind of like what they said about Shireen Abu Akleh and what they say about literally everyone. This is a lawless regime, folks. Absolutely fucking lawless. We need to learn much more about the nature of what happened on the ground. That's funny. You're right. You know what we do? By the way, how is that investigation into the murder of Aishanor going? Because that's the exact same shit that Jake Sullivan and all the hacks under the Biden administration said when Aishanor, another American, was killed by the IOF. You guys were looking into it. How long are we looking into it? Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman of New Jersey called Amir's death an atrocity in a social media post on Monday. The state's governor, Philip D. Murphy, demanded in a statement that the Israeli government provide answers about why Amir had been killed, lamenting the tragic loss of life. What you don't see there is Cory Booker. There absolutely should be a full investigation into this, but given the history of how this stuff works, there probably won't be. Which is why I would advise again to my fellow Americans not to travel there. Now, Amir had been living there, okay? So his family, he's from New Jersey, but his family moved to the occupied West Bank in 2013. And by the way, the friends that he was with were also American, okay? So just remember that. Just keep that in mind. You having an American passport, if you are Arab, if you are Palestinian, will not protect you. And honestly, even if you're white, it won't protect you. Just ask the guy from the World Central Kitchen. I am devastated for Amir's family. It is absolutely deplorable. It is disgusting. And I, for one, don't want to be fucking allied with anyone that gets away with killing an American citizen.
Supremacy culture is being weaponized by online leftists as their greatest tool in their arsenal because it's what they rely on. It's what they know. It's what feels comfortable to them because they are wielding the tools. And as Audre Lorde said, the master's tools will never tear down the master's house. If you're not sure the tenets of supremacy culture, perfectionism, either or thinking, fear of open conflict, individualism, objectivity as a default, worship of the written word, urgency and control, and punitiveness. The goal is to punish, much like online leftists says, let's punish the Democratic Party, even though it sets aside harm reduction as a tool of accountability. So one, they use call-out culture as a form of control. It has morphed from calling somebody into public shaming and social policing. They can't understand anybody else's points of view, and it mimics the authoritarianism they complain about from the other side. And people then use that same form of control not to build community or solidarity, but to take someone down. Their wokeness is defined by them taking someone down, silencing them. They also have this infatuation with perfectionism. They are not perfect, but they expect anyone talking on the subject to have a perfect point of view, and that's just not how the world works in the current way it's constructed. And so either you're with us or against us is their mindset. They make no space for people to have nuance and pragmatism. And this doesn't bring people in to help solve whatever issue they're working on. It actually drives people away because they don't want to be associated with people that are faulty in the premises of their action, really on prima facie by using the tools of supremacy culture as an underpinning of what they're doing. But moreover, it's performative. They will also create these moral hierarchies where they suppose that certain voices should be heard on the topic, and typically it's theirs, even though they're not part of the community that they are supposedly speaking for, and people in that community are calling them out for performative activism. We call it cause colonization as a more formal term. There's also this urgency associated with what they do. You got to do it now. You got to say something now. They operate in this microwave society and fail to realize that not everything can be done in this exact moment. And each of these things shuts down dissent, it gatekeeps, it tries to punish people, and then it tries to gain social capital through moral posturing. And you've seen it from a ton of creators. I've tagged a few of them. And what you recognize is none of the people that are doing the harmful things are at the forefront of those harmful things are actually people that are part of the marginalized class that they're supposedly speaking for. And this ends up enforcing this supremacy adjustment dynamic, even in spaces that outwardly oppose them. They use the tools of dominance in the name of liberation, when in all actuality, it is merely a ploy to get their way any way they can, and it is harmful to the liberation of all people. So what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Transformative justice, relational accountability, calling in instead of calling out. Remember that you can only call somebody in if you have their phone number. Centering collective care over individual punishment. That is true too when seeing a set of complex issues across the globe. And finally, holding space for complexity and growth. I hope that helps. I'll try to do something more formal, but I think one of the things I want to name for the sake of naming it is we have some responsibility to make sure that we know that the people that are leading or at the forefront of conversations are, one, part of that marginalized group, and two, understand the complexities of harm reduction, understand the complexities of using one's voice, understand the complexities of being kind and thoughtful to people in their mistakes, as opposed to what Audre Lorde would frame using the master's tools to try to tear down the master's house.
Imagine what would have happened, by the way, if the Palestinians had killed 15,000 Israeli children. I mean, they slaughtered almost all the Palestinians and we paid for it after 36 Israeli children were killed. And that was heartbreaking and terrible. 15,000 Israeli children? They nuke countries. We'd nuke countries on their behalf. Because Israeli children are worth more than all the other children in the world combined. It's impossible not to be disgusted with that way of thinking. And don't tell me that they don't think that. They 1000% believe that. Otherwise they wouldn't act like this. If those are Jewish Israeli kids that Israel was killing day after day after day, 50 at a time, 80 at a time. Oh, look, there's a school full of children. Murder them all. If they were Israelis, you think people wouldn't go nuts? You think Israel wouldn't go nuts? You think America wouldn't go nuts? There is no person who is intellectually honest that could say, oh yes, with a straight face. We wouldn't mind if those were Israeli children being murdered. But we don't mind when it's Palestinian children murdered by the terrorist state of Israel. Now, we fund terrorists.
Yeah, we do.
We fund terrorists.
We absolutely do.
And yes, governments can be terrorists.
Yep.
And that is exactly what the Israeli government is. And if you tell me that 50,000 dead innocent people and 15,000 dead children and 25,000 women and children, and these numbers are the lowest possible, a stadium full of women and children, that they killed them by accident, please don't embarrass yourself by making such outrageously stupid and unjustifiable comments. And if you say, no, it's okay, we get to murder them because they're human shields and it's Hamas's fault. Shut up. Jesus Christ, have you no decency?
So I'm gonna need white leftists to listen up. Actually, I'm gonna need all of my lovely fellow white people to listen up. This person is saying we need to start seeing how white supremacy culture not only impacts on a personal level, but how the ideology kills people in other countries, essentially. And she's talking about specific genocides. I'm gonna say this as gently as I can. We cannot stop white supremacist ideology from harming people in other countries if we do not unpack the value systems and the things keeping us from forming community and authentic relationships as white people. There is no not only impact us. We have to work on how it impacts us before we can work on how it impacts the world effectively. And I know that sounds... I have watched for the last decade. I have watched well-meaning, passionate white people try to prevent, mitigate, stand against the harms of white supremacy and how it interacts on a world stage and inflicts itself on the world. And I have watched them consistently fail. Not everybody fails, obviously, but I've watched white people consistently fail at this because they have not unpacked their hierarchy, conformity, punishment lenses. They have not unpacked how they relate to other people, and they don't know how to form community. And without learning those things, there is no stopping the ideology from having a worldwide impact. Because we're just going to keep creating the same patterns that have been keeping us ineffective and passive for hundreds of years. Okay? So, this person is not incorrect. White supremacist ideology, colonialist ideology, those things have a real, serious, and terrible impact on non-white countries. But I am telling you that you cannot fix that, you cannot stop that, if you do not know how to unpack that shit in yourself, heal your reactive trauma in yourself, and build community with the people around you. It's simply not going to be effective. So.
This is all I got from this video, and I am going to say this. I really do not want to hear from what's it, Jank. Jank is young Turk, right? He has even no right to speak about what is going on right now in Gaza because he has a platform and he was supposed to use his platform very well during the period that election was coming. But he was very cunning, as a cunning Turkish man he is. And now he is screaming, go and scream at the White House. And I am going to say this. One thing I have noticed with pro-Palestinian, especially those white leftists, is that I know for sure that they do not appreciate people that look like me. And it's not something new because for those people to constantly making videos calling Black people out for not speaking over what is going on in Palestine or over a Palestinian that was probably unalive in the United States, I think that it's really crazy. But you know what I want to tell you people? Hit the White House if you have the balls. You heard me right. Hit the White House. Organize with your fellow white leftists and hit the White House. If you are that strong enough, if you are really into this thing you are doing, if what you really are doing is what you love to do, hit the White House with your colleagues and talk about what is going on. I do not see these people criticizing this present administration, but after Cory Booker's filibuster, they've really been all out in Black people. They have always been in Black people business because that is the only thing they know how to do. They are not calling their own white people out on their racism all over the world, because if you look around, you definitely will see what it's going on. They are not calling their own people out for voting for a man that is deporting people all out. They are not saying anything about it. But the only people they all talk about is no other people but Black people. Black people that made it very clear to them that there is no need for you to vote for whoever you want to vote, especially those that said they were going to vote for Justine and Donald Trump. You all use your platforms wrongly. And now my own people are your problem. You all haven't started. I really do feel so sorry about what is going on to the people in Gaza. And because, yes, the people in Gaza and people surrounding them, because they are the ones going through it, the Afro-Palestinian and the rest of it. You all are all chilling in your well-cooling apartments, making noise about Palestinians that are far away, and then at the same time creating problem. I am not saying that people shouldn't use their platforms to create awareness over what is going on for people in Gaza, right? Creating awareness is good for them, but coming up here and creating more problem for them, that shows how dumb you people are. You all are not even trying to save them. See, for everything Donald Trump is saying or has said so far about him probably taking over Gaza and all that, that was something he said before he became before you people voted for him. That is to tell you how ignorant majority of these people are, especially these white leftists. They did not read the Project 2025, but because for them, they say black people do not read. Like when you want to get a black man or something, like when I say black man, like black person in general, write something on a book for the person, or give it on a book and all that. Sincerely speaking, I really think that black people read all they could. Like they already did their homework very well before the last election and after. Till this very moment, they are still doing their homework. So the same people that they told us that they read so good are the ones that did not read their book. Because if you all had read, you definitely would know that Project 2025 was a thing, and this month everything that was in Project 2025 are the things he is fulfilling. So let black people be, and go and call your people out to help. Black people are not your security guards. Bye for now.